Coming up on today's show, we are breaking down this Week 3 matchup between the Bengals and the Vikings. The spread on this game today has, kind of moved a little bit. Early on when I looked this morning, it was a 5.5-point spread for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I think it has to do with some of these injury reports that came out. It's now down to 2.5 for the Vikings there. So, this is going to be a game where I think anything can happen. You got two backup quarterbacks playing in this game this weekend, and the Bengals have an opportunity to start off 3-0 for the first time since 2015. So let's go to Minnesota and get a victory and start off 3-0. All right, before we get into some of the injuries and some of the keys to victory here on today's video, I want to beat the Vikings Now preview. They put it out yesterday, and they only got 150 likes on their video. I want to double it up. I want to get at least 300 likes on today's show. So if you want the Bengals to go to Minnesota and get a win, start off 3-0, make sure you guys get down there and like today's video. All right, let's start off with some injuries here as well. Joe Burrow obviously going to be out in this ball game, going to be out for the next couple months here. Dylan Fairchild dealing with a shoulder injury on the Wednesday practice report that came out just a little while ago. He did practice in full today, so I don't think that's going to be any sort of an issue there. Shemar Stewart, he did not practice with that ankle injury. The expectation for him, it's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks with that low ankle sprain. Taylor-Britt dealing with a hamstring injury, and Logan Wilson also dealing with an ankle injury. Both of those guys were limited in today's practice. Usually on the Wednesday availability report or injury report, if you're listed as limited, you're probably going to be good to go, but we will definitely keep an eye on those two guys there. Over to the Vikings now. They had 12 players in total listed on their injury report, and I didn't list all of them out here because, a lot of these guys were just limited in practice, so really wanted to touch on the guys that did not practice here. Two things that are very important, though. J.J. McCarthy and Aaron Jones, both out for this game. McCarthy dealing with an ankle injury. Jones actually went to IR earlier today with a hamstring injury. Their offensive line right now kind of banged up as well. Ryan Kelly and Justin Skule both dealing with concussions. I do also want to make note, Charlie Clifford tweeted this out as well, saying Vikings left tackle Christian Darrishaw, dealing with an ACL injury, coming back from that, was a full participant on today's injury report. So, Justin Skule has been playing left tackle for him for the first 2 weeks there. He did not practice today with a concussion, but things are kind of sounding good right here for Christian Darrishaw, being a full participant in today's Wednesday practice. So who you guys got in this one? Let me know down in the comment section. If you're a Bengals fan, you guys are watching this video, I want your bees to flow down there in the comments. But if you don't think the Bengals are going to win, that's fine too. Let me know what you guys think. Type V for the Vikings or B for the Bengals. Let's get into some keys to victory for this ball game this weekend. I want to see the Bengals get the ball out quick. That's something that I thought when Joe Burrow went out, they actually did a very good job of with Jake Browning, was just getting it to your playmakers really quickly, right off the snap. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. He does a really good job mixing up blitzes, pressures, confusing the quarterbacks with different, disguising coverages and things like that. It's going to be a real challenge for this Bengals offensive line and Jake Browning, because I think the Vikings are going to do a lot of things to try to confuse the Bengals offense here. Let's look to now Jake Browning, some of his passing stats here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. When he went into that ball game, the average time to throw was 2.34 seconds. So that means he's getting the snap. 2.34 seconds later, he is getting the ball out of his hands. You can see that correlation right there. Passes from 0 to 10 yards, 13 of 19 there. They did take a couple of longer shots as well, but I think this is just going to be a really big key thing, especially with the offensive line. They've been struggling a little bit, and they've gotten a lot of flack with this Joe Burrow injury and everything like that. So just getting the ball out of Jake Browning's hands, I think, is going to be a real big key to this game. When you look to the Vikings defense as well, they're giving up 23 points per game. That's 17th in the NFL. We'll come back to those run stats here in just a little bit, but they're not doing very good defending the run here. But their secondary is really been really good. They're 5th in the NFL in yards allowed per game, and even opponents' third down percentage. 33.3% of the time opponents are converting on third down. That's good for the Vikings, 7th in the National Football League. So third downs could also be a very key down in this ball game this weekend, and hopefully, the Zac Taylor and this Bengals offense can just do things to help out your second string quarterback. Key to victory number 2. Can we just get the run game going? They are trying their best to be able to run the football, and they are feeding Chase Brown, but they just consistently haven't been able to do a very good job of that. And, like I said, with this Vikings rush defense, it's not very good right now. The Bears ran for 119 yards against them. DeAndre Swift early on in that ball game in week 1 on Monday Night Football, I thought he was looking really, really good, but then the offense really fell apart there in the fourth quarter for the Bears. Last week against the other day anyways, against the Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robinson absolutely cooked them. 22 carries for 143 yards, averaged over 6 yards per carry. So if there is a game that the Bengals are going to be able to actually, rush with some consistency, this game has to be the one. Chase Brown, look, they are trying to feed him. And that was something that, Zac Taylor said in the preseason, said in the offseason, that they want Chase Brown to be, a big part of this Bengals offense. And he's done an okay job so far. 2.4 yards per carry isn't very good, but the success rate right there is about average. It's not great. It's not it's not awful. Success rate is measured. It's a rush considered successful if the offense gains at least 50% of the required yards to get a first down on first down, 70% on second down, and then 100% on third and fourth down. So, he's doing a decent job at, fighting hard, running hard, but at the end of the day, this Bengals offensive line has got to get some push. Zac Taylor was even asked about some of the lack of explosive plays on the ground for the Bengals. He said, we've just got to continue to find ways to win, put points on the board. So whatever that looks like, you'd love to have that balance. I'd love to rush for 200 yards when it's available. We're just going to keep doing the things that we need to do to move the ball downfield and help our team win. Last week, you'd like to be better, at Cleveland. They have a tough run defense. Baltimore averaged 2.1 yards per carry. We only averaged 2.0 yards per carry. That's a tough defense to go against as we continue to create our identity as we go through the early part of this season. That's something that we have to continue to be better at. I am not making any excuses for that. We need to be better in the run game, just really be better in all phases of the football game. So obviously, this is a key point for the Bengals going to the Vikings, and hopefully they can do a better job than they have the first couple of weeks here on the ground. All right, we'll continue here in just a second with some more keys to victory, but today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. I use Prize Picks for so many different types of sporting events. It could be professional football, baseball, college sports, MMA, boxing, basketball, whatever it is. Prize Picks has it. Prize Picks is a ton of fun, and if you guys know ball, you can win real money all season long on Prize Picks. This is what we've got cooked up for the Thursday game and some Sunday games as well. Tua Tagovailoa going with the less than passing yards for him. Josh Jacobs going with the more than, just needs one touchdown for Josh Jacobs for that one to hit. And then also Patrick Mahomes, that is the max discount, only needs a half passing yard. Obviously, that is going to hit. So make sure if you see these max discounts, get those into your Prize Picks lineups today. That is the power play, which means you have to get every single one of your Prize Picks selections correct. But Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means you could cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Prize Picks is the best way to get cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link is down in the description of today's show. It's also going to be down at the pinned comment of today's show as well. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so Carson Wentz is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings this weekend, and I think, just it's going to be the same thing for the Vikings as well, going up against Jake Browning, but get some pressure on Carson Wentz. He really hasn't had an opportunity since 2021 to really be a full-time starting quarterback in the NFL. Going back to his time at the Indianapolis Colts, he actually did a pretty good job there in 2021. But since then, just really hasn't played a whole lot of meaningful football. So I think just getting him off his spot and confusing him is going to be a really big key thing for the Bengals this weekend. And let's see, maybe with Shemar Stewart going to be out for this game, we'll see who else can step up, whether that's Joseph Asai or somebody else there. But I definitely do think getting some pressure on Carson Wentz this weekend is going to be a real big key to victory. So get down in the comment section and predict the score to the Bengals versus the Vikings. Let me know what you guys think. I'll give my score prediction here in just a little bit, but let me know yours down in the comment section. All right, key to victory number 4, and this is one that it seems like I bring up every single week. Keep it clean. The Bengals have struggled, especially going on the road with penalties, and penalties can really be the difference in the game. You go back to last year on the road. The Bengals were ranked 24th in the NFL with 7 penalties per game. They've only played 1 road game so far, and this ranking is a little bit skewed a little bit because there have been some teams in the NFL through 2 weeks who haven't played on the road yet, but still 7 penalties per game. That's tied for 19th in the NFL. Jake Browning, holdings are going to happen, right? He's really going to be in charge of, just doing the little things right constantly, getting everybody lined up correctly, making sure, we don't want any pre-snap penalties, false starts, things like that. Zac Taylor also needs to help him out, get that play call in quick so you're not getting down to 10 seconds when you're breaking the huddle and then you walk up to the line of scrimmage and all of a sudden, there's a look that you don't like and you're trying to check it and you're either, burning a timeout or, taking a delay a game. Those things can really hurt you, especially on the road. It's going to be a crazy loud environment. So just you got to be able to be disciplined. The Bears in that first game versus the Vikings, they were rolling in the first 3 quarters of that ball game and just a couple different things happened. They got a couple penalties that stalled out a couple of drives. They end up missing a field goal. And in the fourth quarter, the Vikings end up, going and scoring 21 unanswered points to win that ball game. Now, obviously, that was with their starting quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. But, Carson Wentz really, I know he hasn't played, full time in a couple of years, but he's been around the league for a long time. He's a veteran, so you cannot let these penalties be a reason, be a storyline as to why you end up losing this game if you do end up losing this game. So that is definitely another thing that I'm going to be watching this weekend. All right, so I am going to hope that the Bengals can get the run game going because the Vikings secondary has looked really good so far this year, but their defensive line has struggled being able to stop the run. So I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think that under is going to hit. Maybe the Bengals, can continue to get a couple of turnovers as well. So I'm going to say the Bengals end up winning this one. The under hits, but it's going to be 23-20. Bengals start off 3-0 for the first time since 2015.